Okay, so right now I'm going to show you how to use the OSM Tools plugin for QGIS. The point of OSM Tools is to provide a tool that does routing, so it helps you calculate the distance between a set of points along a road network. It uses OpenStreetMap as the road network input, and it works pretty well, but there's some tricky parts to it, so that's why I'm recording this video. So what I've done is I've loaded up my destination points, which is in one file, and then I have, in this case, my houses. So I'm calculating the route between a set of houses and destinations. And I've also loaded up an OSM layer in the background just to visualize, but that part's not necessary. You do, however, need your starting points and your destinations. So those are loaded up already. I use the add vector layer right up here to do that. Now, the tricky part about the OSM tools is that you can't just use the inputs directly. We actually have to select all of the points that we want to use. So I'm going to click on my destinations over here, and then I'm going to use the selector tool up at the top. And when I click on that, it's going to let me draw a box. I'm just going to draw a box around everything, and you'll see that my two destination points here, which are stars, are now highlighted. I also need to do the same thing for my houses. So I'm selecting it over here in the table of contents. I'm coming up to the select features option, and I'm going to drag a box around all of them because I want them all. The nice thing about this, even though it feels like a bug, is that if I only wanted to use a couple of the houses or one of my destinations, I don't need to save out a new file. I can just select them and then run the tool with the selection. But because I want to use all of them, it feels a little bit like a bug. Also note when you're doing your selection up here, if you use the drop down, you have other options, but I'm using the select by rectangle. Okay, so we have our data set up. Now I'm going to come up here to the plugins, and I'm going to start OSM Tools. Now, if you've looked at this before, you know you have to put in your key, which you can get by clicking on the order button. It'll walk you through that process. I'm going to pick driving directions with car. I want the shortest route, not the fastest route. So this is shortest distance. Fastest is the quickest driving time. So you get to decide which one you want. Now from here, I'm going to pick, I want to use my layers. So I'm going to pick this radio button for my start locations for from layer. I have options for the things that are loaded. So I'm going to start with my houses. And then I'm going to pick the unique ID. So each of the numbers in here is unique for each of the rows. So I'm going to pick that column. And now I'm going to come down here to the end locations. I want my destinations because that's where I want to end. And then again, I'm going to pick the ID column that is unique for this particular layer. And I do that by looking at the attribute table to find out what is the unique ID. In this case, I want to do, it's sort of like a matrix. So it'll be 2 by, I think, how many of those do I have? 2 by 6. So it's going to match every house with each of the two destinations. And then I'm going to leave the via part alone. If you have something in there besides lat long, you can hit clear. And then I'm going to let it pick whatever route it wants, whether that goes on any of these things or not. And so I'm going to click OK. Now we wait for it to run. It takes just a second. I'm on Wi-Fi, so this is taking a little bit longer. Okay, and then you'll see you have a layer that shows up here on your table of contents when it's finished called route. I'm going to move it up to the top, and it's a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to just turn off the OSM layers. And so you can see I have lines that go from each of my houses to each of my destinations, and I can style that however I want. But let's go ahead and look at the attribute table of my routes. And you can see I have for each of my froms, so each of my houses, I have the same ID twice, and then the 2 ID, I have a 4 and a 2. And then again, for this one, there's 2 of the IDs ending in 4, and then the 2 ID, it goes to 0.4 and then also to 0.2. I also have my distance, which is in the map units for my projection, and I have the time calculation here as well. So that's how you use the OSM tools for finding the distance along a driving route using OpenStreetMap.